Boys, this one came as a little bit of a surprise as far as Jack de Belin is concerned. His career at St George Illawarra is coming to an end this season. Has signed a deal. Mick, you broke this one through at Parramatta. A 1-year deal with an option. Can you explain that?
Yeah,
for the fans?
I really like it if I'm the Eels. Jack de Belin's been really, really good for the Dragons last year and this year. He very rarely gets injured, plays 20 plus games. Throughout his career, he's a ball playing forward, and it really suits the way Jason Riles wants to play. We see the way he loves his teams to shift the ball, and that's what Jack de Belin can do. Low risk for Parramatta, 1 year, and an option in their favour for the following year. So if he does well, I'll keep him for another 12 months. I think it's a good buy for Parramatta. It's not going to move the needle or anything like that in terms of their premiership chances for next year, but solid player, trains hard, has ball skills, and suits what Jason Riles wants to do.
The only question I have, I think it's a good buy as well. The only question I have is they're starting to get a lot of similar style of 13s, or at least they have a number of 13s with
Hopgood, Dylan Walker, Jack Williams.
Yep. Your thoughts on it, Reed?
I'm a bit like you, Dave. It's interesting. It's sort of the Serraldo template, right, where he had a lot of smaller forwards, and that's obviously worked really well for them. I'm more look. They need to restock their forward pack, there's no doubt, but I'm more intrigued about where they're going to go. When I say forward pack, hooker's obviously an issue for them. Looking at Talon De Silva, they've got young Rolly Smith in the system. I'm interested to see where they go there, and also at 6, what they do at 6. that's the other big one for me at the moment.
Sure.
So I think they're more pivotal piece of the puzzle for the Knights. I think for the Eels, I think he's a good, solid signing. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't get my heart racing.
No,
my blood
the juice
pumping.
is flowing.
No, I'm more intrigued about 5'8" and hooker.
Yeah, they're unrelated, right?
Well, I'm just saying. That's how I feel.
It's not like they've blown the budget on Jack de Belin.
I understand that.
As you said, they're in for Talon De Silva. Papali will probably get first crack at 6. So.
Yeah. Don't you think it actually helps their cause at 5'8" and hooker on the open market, knowing that whoever they're pursuing they picked up Jack de Belin as well? You don't. He's an experience.
Do you think that excites a bloke?
They look at
go to Parramatta for Jack de Belin? No offence to Jack. He's been a great player for a long time.
But you do look at a squad, and he's a very experienced forward. He's been in solid form for Saints, and better to have him than not have him, I say.
Well, perhaps, but I don't think he's the sort of player that, as I said, with due respect to Jack, that a Jonah Pezzard or a Talon De Silva is going to look at and go, got to get there because Jack de Belin's there.
No, I'm not saying that far, but you need a quality squad.
Yeah, that's what he does. He's a good signing. He's a good signing for what they wanted.
He's good. Yes.
He's a really, really good.
Good's a great.
Who did Parra sign at 6?
Well, I think they're interested in Jonah Pezzard. There's talk of Sandon Smith. I'd sign Jonah Pezzard. Potentially pay him at halfback and play Mitch at 6.
Yeah,
we've seen Mitch can play 6. Does a good job there. That's an option, I think, a definite option for them.
Yep.
Rolsey knows Jonah Pezzard well.
They're front runners to get the silver.
Well, they are, but Manly's in the mix here and a couple of other clubs, the Cows, Newcastle.
They're all keen. They're all super keen.
Yeah.
So,
but Riley Smith's been really good this year, actually.
Yeah, but this is not a slide on Riley Smith.
I know
right?
that.
Like,
it's just if you let me finish my sentence, I was about to say that'd be a good 1-2 punch, Riley Smith and Talon De Silva, because Riley Smith's been really good this year. So it'd be great. I think Talon would be a great signing for them if he turns out to be the player that people expect him to be. It's very early in his career. There's a lot of raps on him.
Yep.
But there's still a long way to go to be the player people are tipping he will be.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've told Riley Smith that they're going to sign another hooker. Yeah. Riley Smith's re-signed, so it's not a shock to him. And, we see when Riley hasn't been on the field, there's a dramatic drop-off for... I think that position's probably more pivotal than 6, because when you've got someone like Mitch there, he's a marquee halfback, right? I think Talon De Silva's key for Parramatta, and you can run with Papali at 5'8", I think. I love what Parramatta are doing. I really do.
Yeah.
Big decision last year, signing Yongi.
Yep.
Jason Riles stuck to...
He's been so good at Yongi. So good.
It's one of the smartest moves a club has made recently. It was controversial. It was risky, moving on Clint Gutherson, but it's going to be the right move.
Yep. Yeah. Fellas, there was a significant press conference held on Thursday morning out at Manly. It's Anthony Seibold, Manly head coach. He addressed a number of issues in relation to where they're at as a footy club. Reed, man, you were there. Yeah. Run us through the hot topic points of discussion out of that press conference.
Well, the big ones were Tommy. Tommy's moved to the centres, and obviously Daly's future, Daly Cherry-Evans' future. Look, Steve, so on the Tommy front, this is not a permanent move. I think, as we all understand, it was take some pressure off Tommy, allow him to go into the centres, free him of some responsibility, and hopefully bring the best out in him. And I think, we all understood that was the case. Steves has confirmed that. On Daly, he said Daly actually addressed the playing group this week because they have these annual campfire chats, Dave, where a couple of players or staff get up and just talk about life, their life, right? This week happened to be Daly's week, coincidentally.
Oh, okay.
So Daly got up in front of the group and he spoke about why he hasn't made a decision yet. Now, Steves wouldn't go into it, but he said that was one of the areas that he addressed. The other thing that Dave, he said, look, there's obviously been some talk around taking the captaincy off him. It's never entered Steves' head. It's not a consideration, won't be happening. And they were the big issues that he addressed this morning.
Okay, so let's start with Turbo. Do you think this move, do you still think he has as much influence on the Manly side as what he does at fullback, at centre?
No, well, he's not going to. But I understand why they've done it, because I think his form's been down, his confidence has been down, and as much as he mightn't want to move there, I think it is the best thing in the short term for him. I don't think this will be a permanent move. They're a better team when Tommy's at his best playing at fullback. If he goes back to centres, has a couple of weeks there, rediscovers who he can be, they'll move him. I think they'll move him back to fullback. And I think Steves basically spoke to that today. That's what will happen. So I understand why they've done it.
Mickey, are you slightly concerned that it's the campfire chat? The DCE gets up and addresses the group. Redman says it was his turn on everyone gets a go on front
Jazz
of him.
Tavanga was up with him.
Jazz, who's on the way to the UK Super League next year. DCE, why now? Round 17. Getting up and explaining why he hasn't made the call.
Well, I think it's coincidental.
Why now?
Right.
But I understand that's coincidental. But it's okay to... You can call an emergency.
Why hasn't he done it before?
Yeah, an emergency campfire meeting.
Yeah, you're right. Like, he probably... I don't know if he has addressed the group or not.
Well,
recently,
we're saying
right?
this is that he has...
It's the first time, mate, since he's made his decision,
man.
then, he probably needed to. But, I don't know. It's not the reason Manly are playing badly. The DCE thing...
Would you take the captaincy off him?
No, it's just going to create more headlines for a club that's already engulfed in headlines. I just think it's... I wouldn't. And it's not like, with all due respect, if you're going to give it to Jake or Tom, they're not braining it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you've got to give the captaincy to the best player on the field.
Well, who would you make captain if it's not DCE?
I'd make Jake Trebojevic captain.
I just don't think he's playing up to scratch either.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to take it away from Daly because his form's not great or he's causing a distraction, I don't think you can say Jake or Tom have gone, all right, we're shooting the lights out here.
This is the great problem with Manly. Everyone's pointing the finger at Daly, and I've been one of them, right? But Tommy and Jake aren't killing it. So your three highest paid players, who their aggregate income would be $3 million plus, which is 25% of your salary cap, they're all not going great, or not going as well as
they should. Well, their price tag fees.
So that's the issue at Manly. That's the big issue at Manly. And some of that relates, I think, back to the Daly decision, because I don't think the Trebojevic boys were happy about that decision, the way it was played out, but not all of it. I don't think all the blame falls at Daly's feet.
Really, they care more about winning than they do about that decision.
Yeah. No, but I think they care about the club, Mick, and I think it reflected that decision was devastating. The fallout from it was devastating.
Absolutely.
There's
no denying they would be hurt by the impact of all those headlines and scrutiny over that.
Sure, right, but I can't blame that decision that happened months ago on the way Manly are playing.
I just said it wasn't the whole reason, Mick. I said it's part of it.
I think it's a...
Really quickly, how important is this game against the West Tigers for Anthony Seibold's coaching career?
It's funny, we asked Steves about the pressure coming in this week. He said, mate, have you seen what's going on in Israel and Iran? That's pressure. Not coaching footy teams.
I understand, but we are...
And I acknowledge what he's saying, but it's crucial for him, Dave, because the only way to silence all the talk around that club at the moment is to win a footy game. Once you win a footy game, we'll turn our attention to...
the Tigers. Potentially,
whoever loses out of Gold Coast and the Cowboys,
weekend.
right? You win, and the noise goes away.
Yep. Who are you tipping?
I tip Manly,
Manly.
Who did you tip?
Tigers.
Oh, Davey.
What about that?
Yep.
Wow.
What about you?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah?
Well,
Mate, I think they're a massive chance of Tigers.
Well, mate, they pushed the Raiders.
Mate, Manly are battling.
God.
Their forward pack's
I
terrible.
think I tipped the Tigers. I'm pretty sure I did.
Well, we'll be busy on Saturday if Manly lose.
I think they're good things.
Surely they win.
Guys, this is a massive weekend
Yeah.
of footy, and we haven't even touched on State of Origin, on the impact of what these results could do for not only top 8, top 4, coaches. For me, there's a game that I just can't believe the Warriors are outsiders in and against the Brisbane Broncos. Now, I appreciate the Warriors. They've just been a little bit clunky of late, but they are outsiders in this game. And for me, the Broncos aren't the real deal as far as I'm concerned. I think they had a good second half against Cronulla. They still missed 40-odd tackles against the Sharks. And if Cronulla were good enough, they would have put them to the sword in the second half. They weren't. And I feel as though the Warriors are primed for this one and can get the job done. Where do you like this weekend, Mick? There's some big games.
I honestly think it is the most important game of the season because every game means something, right?
Yeah.
Like there's 1,000 different storylines that you can unpack for every game, right? So for mine, I'm going to go Storm v Sharks.
Yep.
The Storm got away with one last week against South Sydney.
I thought they did too.
They just haven't been anywhere near the side that we think they can get to, and that's probably why everyone believes they're premiership favourites because of the top 4, I think they've got the most growth in them, right? Then you've got the Sharks, and they're a tough side to get a read on.
Totally.
Right? Like, at times they look really, really good, and at times they look horrific. So, you wrote about the honesty session and the things that, the meeting that they had this week. Let's see how they respond.
Yep.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go to the bottom of the ladder, to the Titans-Cowboys game, because obviously both these coaches are under immense pressure at the moment. Dave, Mick exposed the Des Hasler contract situation, and Toddy Payton, well, they've been pounded the last 3 weeks. So
just remind viewers and listeners about the contract
situation.
So
Des has only got a guarantee for next year. Well, sorry, the Titans can part ways with Des Hasler at the end of this year. Well, either at the end of this year if they miss the 8, or immediately once they're mathematically out of top 8 contention. So that's actually not far off being the case, that they're mathematically out of top 8 contention. I mean, I think we all think Des won't be there next year.
No.
I think that's the feeling around rugby league, and that's the feeling in this room. But this is just a huge game for Toddy Payton as well, because they've looked so bad the last 3 weeks, the Cowboys.
Boys, what's going on in the rumour mill? There's a tip around George Williams, the English halfback, is potentially coming back to the NRL, Mick.
Yeah, been in discussions with the Dolphins. He's got 12 months left on his Warrington contract, and this is where it gets tricky. The Wolves have been in dialogue with the Dolphins and, wanted a player first. I think it was Cody Nikorima was the player that they identified, but the Dolphins are loath to let him go because they see him as a perfect 14 backup half next season. He's been outstanding for him, Cody Nikorima.
Yeah, very
good. George Williams is definitely on the Dolphins' radar to partner Isaiah Katoa next year.
Interesting.
And, he had an interesting stint at Canberra a few years ago, George Williams. First year, went to a prelim. Midway through the next year, had fallen out with Ricky Stewart. And
You went down there and interviewed him, didn't you?
Yeah, it was the most explosive interview I've probably done with a player in terms of their fallout with a coach.
Remind us again the tone of that interview.
Well, it was just like there was a lot going on there, right? Because he had COVID as well, right? So he wasn't able to go see his family. His family weren't able to come. So there was lots of parameters there. And I remember ringing Ricky and telling him what was coming, and he goes, "I'll give you one quote, right? Classic Ricky." He goes, it was something along the lines of, I give my trust to people that deserve it, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it was both of them had clashed and fallen out, right? But since then, George has gone to Warrington. I think he would have been, if Sam Burgess got the Perth job, I think he would have been Sam Burgess' first signing in Perth.
Right.
Sam Burgess coaches him in Warrington, and they would have gone as a package. He would have been able to finish his Warrington contract and get to Perth. But, there's also a massive transfer fee on his head too if they can't find a player up to $400,000.
Right.
So there's a lot to play out still here, but George Williams on the radar of the Dolphins for sure.
What I find intriguing about this, Dave, is George's, correct me if I'm wrong here, my memory of him is dominant half, right? They got Isaiah Katoa. Like, you don't want to take the control away
No.
from Katoa. He's going that good.
Yeah.
So it's an intriguing combination.
They've been obsessed, the Dolphins,
They have,
with
yeah.
an experienced half, right?
Right.
DCE they wanted,
Lewis Dodd, they were around Lewis
they
Dodd.
were going to sign. Yeah, they were the other side
Yeah.
for this year to sign.
Oh, they
Lewis
also
Dodd.
chased Lockie Galvin.
You know, Lockie
He's not an
Galvin,
experienced
yeah,
half,
right?
but they were chasing
They had a
Lockie
look at
Galvin.
Braden Trindle.
So that they've had this thing of partnering Katoa, and there's no way they want to curtail the development of Katoa, right? They think he's an an
Yeah,
absolute
of course, yeah.
freak. So they think they want to find someone to complement him, which I'm surprised that Cody Nicarima is probably they don't persist with him.
He's been so
He's
good,
been
hasn't
good
he?
for him, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so good.
you know, he's a perfect 14 too. He's not
Yeah.
going to be lost to that side. So yeah, it'd be interesting. He's the English captain. So
Yeah.
and George
I'm
Williams.
not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying Katoa's development is just
You don't want to
exponential.
stymie
You
that.
don't want to stymie that, yeah.
Another halfback in the mix as far as the Raiders are concerned, boys.
Yeah,
Jakey
Clifford.
Clifford, look, he's been on, obviously told a while ago that he wouldn't be re-signed by the Cowboys next year. The Raiders are looking at him. I'm not sure how far progressed it is, Mick.
He's
but I
back
know
in
that-
first grade this week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he is, that's right, yeah.
Now, remembering the Cowboys started pretty well with him,
Yeah, they did,
and
yeah.
then they hit a rocky spot.
They moved Jackson Purdue to 6.
Yep.
Clifford was out of the team, but they've struggled since they made that change. And Purdue's back in the centres this week. Canberra looking obviously some depth in the halves. Now they've lost Jamal Fogarty at the end of the year. I think he'd be a handy signing for them. I think he's a good player. Shown he could play first grade. And if he's your third half, because they've got young Ethan Sanders in the system, or your backup half, he's a handy backup.
Yep. Yeah. Mick?
Yeah, he's a handy
Clifford,
backup.
you like him?
I think
I think it'd be a good pickup.
I think it'd be
Yeah.
a good pickup for Canberra for what they need with the two young Ethans there and the ability to guide them a little bit. Goal kicker adds, you know, he's played lots of footy, and as your potential a guy that could start in round one
Yeah.
or provide good backup.
Yeah.
I think he's a handy addition.
Hey, boys, really quickly, Jackson Hastings gets his opportunity with the Newcastle Knights this weekend. It's his second NRL start. I actually really liked what he did in his first stint of the season against the Roosters a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I thought he brought a fair bit of energy and influence on the way the Knights played in that game. This is a big game for him too because he hasn't got a club next year, and it's an opportunity to show that potentially he's not finished with yet.
But he's got to try and keep his spot as well. Obviously, no indication that Fletcher Sharp he may not play again this year.
Yeah.
Right. So he's in a world of hurt, obviously, and Tyson Gamble hasn't played a lot of football this year. He played reserve grade last week, but he's missed a lot through injury. So he'll play reserve grade again, and we'll be putting pressure on Jackson Hastings if things don't go well. It's interesting that you say that. I was doing ABC that weekend. Luke Lewis gave him 2 points in our 3-2-1s.
Yeah, he was
You
good.
know, he just what he does. He doesn't have the speed Jackson Hastings, but he straightens the attack a bit.
Yeah.
You know, gets an opportunity to play with Callum Ponga. So let's see what happens there.